Welcome to the Functional and Integrative Medicine Podcast. This podcast is all about exploring root cause medicine, showcasing the power of this approach, and inspiring other medical providers to follow this incredible path. I'm your host, Ginger Allen, and founder of Your Medical Liaison, a medical marketing agency working with medical providers since 2012. My passion for root cause medicine and provider advocacy drives me to help medical providers who have incorporated functional and integrative medicine into their practices. So let's dive in. Welcome Dr. Rhea Rogers to the podcast today. She is a board-certified OB-GYN, functional medicine expert, and founder of Medical Innovative Solutions. Dr. Rogers is more than just a physician. She's a survivor, a mentor, and a trailblazer in root cause healing. Her path took a profound turn in 2010 when, at the peak of her medical career, she was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. That life-altering journey led her beyond conventional treatment into the world of functional medicine, where she found answers that changed everything. Now, Dr. Rogers specializes in hormone optimization, metabolic healing, autoimmune care, and regenerative longevity. Her approach blends advanced diagnostics with deep compassion, empowering patients to restore energy, balance hormones, and reclaim their health at any age. She's not just treating symptoms, she's transforming lives. And today, she's here to share her powerful story and the science behind true lasting healing. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Rogers. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you. You're such a trailblazer, and your story is so inspirational that you actually went through. I think you're the first person on the podcast that's actually gone through a serious diagnosis themselves. And so it's really an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'd like to kind of, if you would, share with us a little bit about your kind of journey into functional and integrative medicine, and just kind of give us a brief overview of the training path that you chose.
Well, as a traditional OB-GYN physician actively practicing in that practice, in 2010, when I was diagnosed with the breast cancer, they said it was a stage 0. But because I was so busy, I said, well, you know what? Let's just go on and take everything off so we can keep going. Only to find out when I woke up that stage 3 was much more advanced and, in fact, one stage away from not being curable. And so I did all the different things, the modalities that they told me to do. They said I would have a recurrence because it was so aggressive, probably within 3 years. And so that led me to say, oh, wow, this is interesting. Why is that? So I did everything that they said to do, but in the same time, I began kind of investigating different things and trying to look into different things. And I specifically remember going to Dr. Laval's. He had the metabolic code. It was the first one he had to get a group of people together in California. And I was just getting into finding this why and what it all meant. And it was probably about 20 functional medicine doctors. I wasn't one of them. And they're talking about all these different things, the thyroid and the adrenals, and they're putting all these things together, and it made sense. It was like, wow, it made sense. But at the same time, I was like, I was in a foreign country, and I was like, wow. So at lunchtime, I went into the bathroom and I cried because I felt like,
Oh,
man, you've been bamboozled. What have you been in medical school learning? This is not what's going on here. And I think Dr. Laval must have saw that my eyes were red. He goes, no, you can get this. You can get this. Because I was the traditional MD in there going, what the hell is going on here? We're missed out. So that started a long time ago. And then I just kind of kept, remember flying out. One of the young ladies, our flight was delayed. So she walked through the different triads, how they went together. She's like, see, you're getting it. You see, you're getting it. And it was like just a new light bulb that came on. And it was like, wow, there's so much more going on that we really don't know. And so that really kind of started that journey for me. It's been a progressive journey. I probably have gotten much more into the functional medicine, the cellular medicine, probably within the last 4 to 5 years of just digging deeper. Because every time you dig deeper, you want to know why. You want to know why.
right.
And you keep finding these new whys. It's like, wow. So that's kind of helped to get me where I am today.
And so that started in 2010. It's now 2025. So that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And when did you transition out of being a traditional OB-GYN and go full time into being a functional and integrative medicine doctor?
So full time, I was still doing OB-GYN when I opened up Medical Innovative Solutions for beauty,
Okay.
intimacy, and wellness. That's why it's so long. We call it NISBE. But that was in 2017. But I was
Okay.
still a full time practicing OB-GYN. And after hours, I would go down to the other clinic and, start to assimilate and do different things and learning like that. And I full integrative practice I closed the GYN portion of where I was in May of 2024. And probably about 2 years ago, I stopped doing all OB-GYN surgeries, deliveries, and things like that. And
Okay.
when I stopped doing all that and was doing just the GYN portion, I was doing really both, more so of the medical innovative solutions as well as the other. And then I just stopped May 2024 with that portion and went all in.
All right. So it's just a little over a year now. You've been 100% a functional medicine doctor. And how have you enjoyed that last year? Has that, kind of changed how you feel about medicine?
Oh, it's so rewarding. It's rewarding when people come in and people now want to know the why. They don't want the band-aid, and the biggest thing that gives you the joy, and when people come in and they just say, you give me hope, and wow, you listen to me. And I tell them many times they're telling you, the body tells a story and they tell you what's going on. And I say, hey, did you hear what you just said? They're like, yeah, I did. I said, you're telling the story. You're listening to your body. It's not
Love
me,
it.
and so I'm just helping you to navigate and narrate and put it all together to connect the dots that they already knew.
Awesome. What are some of the most common root causes that you see in your patient populations, and how do you address them?
So the most common root cause, at the end of the day, it's all one disease. It's all one disease is chronic inflammation. That
Mm,
chronic inflammation is going to show up in people in different ways. So it's not about what you have. We all have it after a certain age. It's just a matter of how you're going to manifest it. Are you going to show it up as diabetes, as cancer, heart disease, stroke, autoimmune disorders, dementia? It's how are you manifesting? And that's always been my thought, but it was confirmed by Dr. Billstrom when he said all autoimmune diseases are the same. I was like, oh, I got it right. So
that's
same
great.
path, and it's so correct. So when a person comes in, you listen to their story, you listen to what's bothering them, but you still start asking them all these other questions about other systems. And sometimes they look at you like, that's not why I'm here. But then when you connect the dots, you're like, oh, they all are interconnected. So you
Got it.
cannot isolate and treat one system and think it's going to get better if you don't address the other systems that are feeding into it. And it's a circle. And I tell them the only thing that's compartmentalized are the physicians. The body is not.
Got it. That's awesome. And I love that Dr. Billstrom, who we've also had on the podcast, is one of your mentors. I love that. What labs or diagnostic tools do you find the most essential in uncovering these underlying imbalances?
So I tell people, the body is a framework. And so there's different variables on that framework. I tend to start with optimization of hormones, because what happens is people say, hey, I got older, so I lost my hormones. It's no, you lost your hormones, so you got older. Because that decline in those hormones is what happens to you, and you start to have these different things occur. And especially, men also, but specifically in women, we hit menopause and you get a waist. All of a sudden, you have this extra baggage, and you have people that are working out, they're trying to eat clean, and they're doing all these different things. And the harder they work out, the more that they keep the same waist, but they can't seem to get rid of it. And that really
Mm,
is the start of kind of your metabolic syndrome, really your insulin resistance. And it really is tied to the loss of your estradiol and all your other hormones. And so that's what starts the chronic inflammatory response, because insulin is one of the most inflammatory markers in your body. So we get this insulin resistance. We can't get rid of the fat, which is really the visceral fat. And the only way that you really can do that is to optimize the hormones back to the levels that they were when you were younger. And that
mm,
includes, if you're menopausal, that includes estradiol, it includes progesterone, thyroid, DHEA, and we also look at vitamin D and testosterone. And unfortunately, a lot of people think if they've had a hysterectomy that they don't need progesterone, because they don't have the uterus. And that is just totally untrue, because progesterone has such a protective role really against breast cancer. So we explain to patients that what we're doing with these hormones, they're bioidentical, so they're off label. They're not standard of care, but you use them for relief of the symptoms that people have, but more importantly, for disease prevention and healthy aging. And each of those levels have a role. So just because you take a hormone does not mean it gets into your system like any other medicine. So you have to manage them and make sure resistances and overcome those different things. So we
Got it.
tend to do a full hormonal panel and a couple of the inflammatory markers that I'm looking at, specifically a fasting insulin level.
Awesome. I, looked at your website and I saw that you've got a lot of patient testimonials. So I know that you've helped thousands of patients over the years, but can you think of a story of a patient whose life improved significantly using functional medicine?
I've had a couple of them, but one young lady stands out to me. She's growing up the whole time. She's always been extremely tired, always overweight, just always just felt just kind of down in the dumps and that. And we started working with her probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And just through her transformation of just optimizing her hormones, that testosterone giving you this sense of well-being, we looked up, she's dropped all this weight, and she walked in there, and she's got her shoulders back and kind of got her swag on. And her neighbor across the street was like, well, wait a minute, we were at the same place. What happened to you? How did you get there? And so she made a profound statement to us, just to see her transformation, just to see the glow, and to see people when they walk in. We had to start taking pictures of these people because they do not look the same. They look totally different. They look younger, the whole attitude, just this whole sense of just the happiness and well-being. And I think just the security and confidence, it's a big change. We see that quite a bit in people, but she stood out because she was just like, she's always been like that. She said her whole life, and people just could not,
Wow.
her mother couldn't believe it. She was
Wow.
like, who is this person?
Wow. That's an amazing story. I love that. So I know that, choosing this type of medicine is very rewarding and brings you a tremendous amount of joy. But I want you to talk a little bit about the challenges, because I know that, there's a lot of challenges when you, give up that big fat paycheck of, being an OB-GYN and going into this. So do you want to share, some of the challenges and, because this podcast is for other providers,
Sure.
and, share some of the challenges you've been through and how you got over those challenges?
Well, first of all, it's functional medicine. Insurance is not going to pay for, so it's pretty much a self-pay, cash pay. And people have to understand that they're going to have to start investing in themselves and not rely on the old system. And so one of the biggest things you can do is you get someone who knows how to market and tell your story. And unfortunately, it took me all this time to find Miss Ginger.
Yes.
So, but I got it there, so we're on the way. The other thing is, when people are not up on it, they're down on it. And unfortunately, I've always felt like a good provider is one who knows what they know and knows what they don't know, but also knows how to get it to their patients with someone who does know it. So you don't have to know it all. You just have to know where to get them if that's something they want to do. Even if you don't know anything about it, or even if you don't believe in it, it's usually because you don't know. So the biggest thing is that with these newer modalities, we got all these new modalities, innovative things that are happening, and it's not what we were taught in medical school. So people have this cognitive dissonance, whatever they saw first, that's what they believe. And they don't want to step out and learn, even though evidence-based medicine is there. So that's one of the biggest challenges, because you're treating these patients and they're feeling better, but it's not the lab results that the other doctors are used to looking at. And so they can't understand them. So they, oh, you need to get off of those. You need to do this. So that's one of the biggest things. And it's unfortunate for the patients because it puts them in the crossfire. So I
Right.
tell them, you can do what they want to do, go on and go on and stop everything and do what they want. No, because I didn't feel good. Well, or can you talk to my doctor? Well, I probably can't teach him or talk to him in 15 minutes what I've been studying for all these years now to connect the dots and all that. But I can give you literature if they're interested in learning. But most times they're not.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest things. And unfortunately, the patients get caught in the crossfire. And then I have many patients, they say, well, yeah, I go to my doctor and I tell them everything and they tell me what they're going to do. And I tell them, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm not doing anything that they say because I already know that. So it's really kind of funny. So you have the different types, but you have some people that they're struggling because they have such that relationship with their other physicians and all that. And they trust you because they see what you're saying, it's the science of it. And I just simply tell them, it's going to be confusing. And if you ask your doctor something, make them tell you why.
Right.
Make them tell you why. And if they tell you it's because you're getting older, then you need to walk out and go find another doctor.
Right.
Because that's not what's going on.
That's
So you
great.
have to interview your doctors too.
Well, thank you for plugging me there. I am very proud of the fact that you are also one of my clients. I've had a couple of clients, but I think I've only had 2 clients on the podcast. So you are one of them, and Dr. B being the other one. So I'm very excited to be working with you. What advice would you give other providers who are just beginning this journey and they're like, kind of like where you were, I'm an OB-GYN or I'm a primary care, and I'm hearing a lot about this functional medicine stuff and I don't really know where to start or how to get started. What advice would you give them?
I think that I would, well, physicians don't really have a business sense, number one. Okay. So that's the first thing. So if your main bread is coming from the other, but once you start to learn the other things, you'll learn what's going to be your niche. At first we're kind of excited. Everything that sounds good. I want to learn this. I want to learn this. And then you'll find out where the niche is and how you're really going to put it together and do those kind of things. And I think once you do that, you will get to a point. That's what happened to me. Even when I was doing the office-based insurance on GYN, and I was doing the functional medicine office as well on separate occasions, when I had a patient that had something going on, say like polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS in a female, I would give them the traditional medicine way that's insurance that's going to cover, and I would give them the functional medicine way that says this is what's really going on if you want to reverse it. And you give them both of those different things, and they would always say, oh yeah, I want that, I want to reverse it. But then when they find out insurance doesn't cover it, I'll just take the other. So you may find yourself working through that even yourself to give clients both options. And then eventually it's going to take over you because you know what they say, physician do no harm. And at a certain point, you're going to say, oh, I'm not sure that I can go back to GYN because that's not what's going on. I don't even think I can give you the option because it's just not right, knowing all
Wow.
the things. So I think in some ways, it's kind of like the more you learn, it'll weed you out.
Gotcha. So what I hear you saying is kind of dip your toe in, start kind of reading about it, learning about it, and then find the niche that fits with your practice. And then you'll, organically kind of move in that direction
Correct.
once you
Yes.
start learning. Awesome. I know there's a lot of things going on in functional and integrative medicine right now as far as trends and things. What are some of the things that you're most excited about, like that are kind of hot topics right now?
Ooh, I'm really excited about the peptides. And peptides are kind of the big deal for everyone. And fortunately, I've been studying peptides with Dr. William Seeds and the New BioAge and Leonard Pastrano. And, you look at the Cynthia Kellers and the Elizabeth Yurts and Dr. Jones, all these, and Dr. Habib Hussein. These are these functional medicine doctors who were into the peptides and showing you how to integrate therapies. So it's not an all or none, but integrate. And the biggest thing that I learned out of all that, which is just so, it's really exciting, is that learn the pathway. The cell has a path. There's pathways. And if you learn the pathways, you can know how to intervene in what's going on and where did the cell go wrong. So I'm learning that these pathways and things that we memorize in medical school, they really exist in the body. It's like, wow, it really exists. So there's some pathways we didn't learn, I never heard of, but you start to hear all these different things and you can see the biochemistry of what's going on in the cell. And then you can learn how to manipulate that so that you can get the cell to do what you want it to do for healing purposes.
I love that. If there's one message that you want listeners to take away about functional medicine, what would it be?
For the listeners,
Mm-hmm.
I would tell them don't accept what is, go look for the why. I tell people, if you weren't born with it, you have some people have some genetic disorders, but even with that, if you weren't born with it, find your why. If you have it, there's a reason you have it. Something triggered something.
Got it.
You can't, just dig deeper.
I love that. Find out the why. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of clinic today to meet with us, Dr. Rogers, and for being on the podcast. And I'm really excited for our future and working together. And thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Before I let you go, can you tell any doctors or listeners how to find you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you if they want to reach out?
So you can go to the website at misbiw.com.
Fantastic. All right. Sounds good. Thanks again.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.